here's some of the things you will need for your painting tutorial. You'll need yourself the printout from the website, some newspaper to keep the table nice and clean, some paint with all the primary colours, red, blue and yellow. You need yourself some paintbrushes, different thicknesses for different effects, a pot of water to clean your brushes, and then a palette. For this I've used a piece of plastic, and don't forget an apron to keep your clothes nice and neat. When trying to create paint daubs, the best thing to think about doing is start off with quite a small brush to do some practicing, and then you need to mix your colours. What I advise for people to do is you start from light colours and work your way towards the darker tones. By doing this, you're not obviously making mistakes with the darker colours at first, and if they're light and they go wrong, you can always go over the top of them with a different tone. My best advice is work your way up, and when you're working on something in terms of 3D shape or form, so in my case I've got this kind of planet, what I'm doing is I'm putting my daubs down by dabbing my brush sideways, but I'm following the curvature or the curve of the planet that I'm creating. And don't forget, I'm working my way from light to dark. When using a bigger brush, what this will do is it'll give you a different effect to when you was using the smaller one. Your paint daubs will be wider, or they'll be more stretched, or you can tend to create lines. So for this I've used a decorating brush, just a small one, because the bristles are that little bit harder, and then what happens is when you push your brush down onto your print, you create different effects with the colours that you've mixed. So for this I thought I'd start doing the sky, and I'd work my way towards this kind of teal green. So having mixed your colours, don't forget when you're mixing them on the palette to really give it a good mix, because there's nothing worse than daubing down and then another colour that you've been using to mix comes out on your brush. So it's best to make sure you give it a good mix first. When I've done this, what I do is I've painted, and because I'm using a big brush, when I've daubed them down, I swap to a smaller brush to work myself closer to another wet colour, just making sure that they don't spread. You wouldn't really want to paint using your thicker brush towards the edge of a shape, so it's better to get a small one when you're doing the details. Having used your smaller brush to work your way towards the edges of another colour to neaten things up, what you then could do is maybe mix a lighter version. So I've used the white, and then I've used the smaller brush and the bristle end to create the daub effects, like thicker dots. So I'm daubing my brush down. What I mean by daubing is you push your bristles down onto the surface of the paint. You can either do that by pushing, or in this case at the top I started doing a couple of twists. So you press it down and you twist and press and twist. For the stippling effect, what you can now do is use the other side of your brush, so not the bristle end but actually the stick. You place that into lighter tones or lighter colours of paint, and you simply put that into the paint and then stipple down. So stipple is just a posh word for dots, so what I need you to do is try and think about different textures and dots you can create on different surfaces of your picture. And please remember to obviously clean the end of your brush before you carry on painting. For the fingerprinting technique, what I advise you do is you use the bristle end of your brush and actually individually paint your finger. Because some people, if you press straight into paint, it creates too much thickness and it kind of bleeds out when you push your finger down. There's a thing to remember as well, you can always paint on wet, so wet onto wet, or you could wait for it to dry and then about an hour later start doing the fingerprints on top. Thank you for watching your painting daubs and stippling tutorial. Having created your painting, please could you now photograph it and send it back to yorkshiretales.co.uk so it can be put onto the digital tapestry.